The Dominion fleet slid out of warp like a swarm of steel locusts, dark silhouettes blotting out the stars. 100 warships, razor-edged hulls, plasma engines burning toxic purple, advanced toward the silent, uncharted region tagged on every Dominion map with a single forbidden designation. Soel 03, Humanity, do not engage. High Commander Vexorian Krail stood on the bridge of the flagship Vorok's Pride, hands clasped behind his back. Tall, slate-skinned, and wrapped in ceremonial armor, he radiated confidence. The bridge crew moved with military perfection, yet tension clung to the air like static. "Commander," said Navigator Jeer, voice uneasy, "we have crossed into the restricted zone. Dominion law demands we—" "Save your breath," Vexorian cut in. "The Dominion fears a backwater species that barely escaped its own gravity well." Pathetic. He gestured toward the holographic star chart. The Sol system glowed red, encircled, not with borders, but with warnings he intended to ignore. At the far end of human space, deep beneath a Pacific-cut mountain, Commander Elias Ward monitored the incursion. Blue tactical screens reflected off his eyes, calm, steady, assessing. Humanity had spent 2 centuries preparing for this scenario. The Outer Defense Network, hidden satellites, quantum listening posts, cloak fields, detected the Dominion the moment they breached the border. A young technician swallowed hard. "Sir, hostile fleet confirmed. 146 warships. They aren't responding to automated deterrence pings." Elias leaned forward, voice measured. "Initiate Protocol Black Mirror Phase 1. The technician hesitated only a moment before executing the command. Across the void, invisible architecture awakened. Stealth nets unfurled between deep space sensor gates. Gravity lenses spun like glass gears. Cold, elegant machinery designed for one purpose: erase invaders without firing a shot. "Channel open," the communications officer reported. Elias stood. "Patch me in." On the Dominion flagship, a low chime echoed, an unexpected signal intrusion. Vexorian raised a ridge-like brow. "Identify the source. Unknown." "But close," Jeer replied. The lights dimmed. A transmission formed, audio only, crisp and human. "Unknown fleet. This region is restricted. Reverse course immediately." Murmurs rippled across the bridge. The voice was calm, not pleading, not fearful, confident. Vexorian smirked. "Reply." His second-in-command opened a channel. "You are speaking to High Commander Vexorian Krail of the Galactic Dominion. You will identify yourselves, or we will—" The human voice returned, unshaken. "This is Commander Elias Ward, United Terran Defense Network." "Reverse course." Vexorian let out a low, arrogant laugh. "Terran? Your species crawled out of caves less than 1,000 cycles ago. You cannot—" The human interrupted again. "We do not repeat warnings." The audio cut. Total silence filled the bridge. Vexorian clenched his jaw. Arrogant mammals. Far from the Dominion fleet, beyond the dark plane of Neptune's orbit, a lone Dominion scout ship drifted. Its sensors flickered as it approached a fragmented structure, a skeletal ship, kilometers wide, floating without power. Its hull bore Dominion insignia. The captain on the scout ship gasped. This is one of ours. No distress beacon. No data logs. No bodies," his officer whispered. The ship looked untouched. No scorch marks. No breached hull. Every system had simply gone cold, like someone had reached in and removed the idea of power. Before the pilot could send a report, every console blinked black. "Gravity spike," the navigator yelled. "Source unknown." A crushing force seized the vessel. Space folded around it, twisting, warping, swallowing. The ship vanished without explosion or trace, as though erased from reality. Back on Vorok's Pride, a technician shouted, "Scout vessel! Gone!" "Explosion?" Vexorian snapped. "No, sir." One moment they were visible. The next? The technician shook his head. "They were gone," Jeer spoke quietly. "The old rumors say Sol 3 is cursed. Dominion ships enter. None return. Entire fleets!" Vexorian slammed his armrest. "Superstition. Primitive species spread ghost stories to feel powerful." He pointed toward the red dot on the star chart. "Forward." I will not be intimidated by farm animals with rockets. Elias watched the Dominion fleet advance deeper into the trap. Black mirror field at 50% effect, the technician confirmed. Their long-range comms are degrading. Good, Elias said. Cut their link to the Dominion. Another officer looked up from her console. Should we lock weapon systems? Elias shook his head. Not yet. They chose to ignore warnings. Give them time to reconsider. You're betting an alien empire will make a rational decision? She asked. I'm betting they'll realize we see everything they do. He tapped the command panel. A dozen relay satellites, invisible to radar, pivoted. Each satellite carried a quantum holobeacon, capable of projecting one message anywhere in the void. Elias spoke clearly. Final warning. Leave now. His voice traveled through quantum space, crossing light years in instants. On Vexorian's bridge, the message appeared again. This time, as a holographic projection, Commander Elias Ward stood in full detail, clean uniform, dark hair, expression steady. He did not look intimidated. He looked bored. You have crossed into sovereign territory, Elias said. The quarantine is not for our protection. It is for yours. Vexorian stepped forward, looming over the projection. You are surrounded. We could vaporize your planet. Elias raised an eyebrow. Try. The Dominion bridge crew froze. Vexorian expected fear. Instead, he got a challenge, Elias continued, voice low. Humanity doesn't start wars. We end them. The hologram vanished. Jeer leaned closer to Vexorian. Sir, permission to retreat? Vexorian stared at the empty space where Elias had stood. He bluffs, but doubt crept into his voice. He turned to tactical. Status? The officer swallowed. Sir, our long-range communications are offline. We can't signal command. Every diagnostic returns the same error. Input not found, not damaged, not jammed. Missing. The Dominion fleet had been isolated completely. Vexorian's arrogance faltered. Begin weapons charge. We break through by force. The tactical officer attempted to respond, but her console flickered, then died. One by one, every screen on the bridge went dark. The entire Dominion fleet lost power. No blast, no attack, just absence. Their engines, navigation, shields, every fusion core went cold. Jeer whispered, voice shaking. What? What technology does that? Lights flickered. A final transmission appeared. No video, no audio. Just a message on every screen. Turn back. Vexorian felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. In Earth's hidden command room, Elias studied the feed. Ships frozen, systems suffocated. No engines burning. He exhaled slowly. Prepare Phase 2, he ordered. If they advance 1 more meter, the fleet disappears. A quiet murmur filled the room. Not excitement, not triumph, something heavier. Responsibility. Humanity would never fire the first shot. But if the aliens pushed, they'd never fire anything again. The bridge of the Dominion flagship plunged into emergency crimson. Every console flickered dead, screens showing nothing but a single warning across the entire fleet. System access denied. Source unknown. Crew members scrambled to recover power, but the ship remained locked in a silent paralysis. Outside the viewport, the stars stretched like streaks of white fire, then snapped into stillness. Something unseen had seized control of their navigation grid and frozen them in place. High Commander Vexorian held himself rigid. His jaw clenched as every officer avoided his stare. Calculate what just happened. The tactical officer swallowed. The fleet didn't decelerate. Something external caught us, held us. Like gravity, but controlled. Navigator Jeer's voice cracked with disbelief. No gravitational body exists in this region capable of that manipulation. Vexorian slammed a fist against the control rail. Impossible. Humans barely mastered orbital travel. They don't have a chime echoed. Not an alarm. A knock. Their communication unit restarted on its own and projected a holographic interface, human origin. A field of data cortex structures displayed themselves around the projection, revealing that the humans had bypassed Dominion encryption as if it were a children's puzzle. Vexorian steadied himself. Open channel. The image sharpened. Commander Elias Ward materialized. Calm, legs slightly braced, hands behind his back. His uniform bore no medals, no rank embellishments. He didn't need symbols to imply authority. You crossed the line, Elias said. Phase 2 is now active. Phase 2? Vexorian scoffed. You believe you can trap a Dominion fleet? We are, Elias cut in. Observe. Outside, the void shimmered. Dark forms emerged, but not with engines or thrusters. They phased into visibility, revealing hundreds of human stealth. Vessels arranged like a noose around the Dominion fleet, not bulky battleships. Ghost, ships, angular, silent, blade-thin, each. One appeared only when light refracted off its hull. Sleek, predatory geometry designed for maximum stealth efficiency. No war banners, no glowing weapon cores, just precision. Whispers swept the Dominion bridge. How? Did they get that close? I never detected engine emissions. Our tracking arrays never registered them. Elias glanced sideways, as though listening to someone off-screen. Then, humanity doesn't send warning fleets. We send final ones. Vexorian pressed forward. What kind of power are you using? Cloaking? Wormhole trickery? Elias tilted his head, almost amused. You're not trapped by our ships. He pointed toward the stars. You're trapped by the fabric around your fleet. The Dominion crew stared at the viewport. Tiny distortions rippled throughout the darkness, waves bending stars into warped smears. The space surrounding the fleet wasn't empty. It was a perimeter of folded space-time, a prison woven from physics. Vexorian whispered the word like a curse. A gravity lattice, Elias nodded. We call it the Black Mirror Net. 20 minutes earlier, Earth Defense Network below the Pacific Mountain. In the command center carved from basalt and steel, engineers executed the next sequence. Lattice nodes are stable, reported Lieutenant Aria Solano. Gravitational anchors engaged. Mirror field holding, added another officer. They can't jump. Elias reviewed 3 synchronized tactical models. The Dominion fleet sat suspended at the lattice's heart, an insect caught in a spider's web. But humanity wasn't gloating. Elias's voice lowered. Ensure non-lethal restraint until forced escalation. Earth did not want unnecessary death, but Earth would also not kneel. Back on Dominion. Flagship Dominion bridges were built for intimidation. Towering ceilings, cold metal, pulsing violet lights. Vexorian had designed them himself. They were monuments to conquest. Seeing them filled with silent panic tasted bitter. Break free, he ordered. Throttle to maximum. The propulsion officer obeyed, slamming full power to engines. A deep bass vibration shook the ship. Then screens showed the result. Engine thrust, 100% velocity change, 0.00 mm, they weren't moving. Gier stared at the readings. Thrusters are firing, but the ship isn't translating. It's not holding us with force, the propulsion officer whispered. It's holding us with laws. Elias appeared again. Warp, thrusters, kinetic engines, plasma sails. None of it matters. Space itself is fixed around you. The line froze Vexorian. You changed space. No, Elias said. We changed your access to it. The Dominion commander stepped close to the hologram until they were nearly face to face. You think a few tricks make you invincible. Elias leaned in just as close. No, preparation does. The power balance shifted. Not with violence. With certainty. Vexorian grit his teeth. Your technology will be ours. You cannot maintain this field forever. We don't need forever, Elias replied. A sharp signal pulsed through the Dominion fleet. Then, a ship vanished. No explosion, no debris, just absence. One moment it existed. The next, not even scanners could confirm it had ever been real. Screams erupted across the bridge. What happened to the Daresh? It's gone from internal fleet roster. This is deletion. No wreckage, no escape pods. Elias's image remained unwavering. Humanity warned you! Vexorian's voice cracked for the first time. Where did you send it? Elias didn't blink. Away. Define a way. Where you can't return. Crew whispered again. Null space weapon? Temporal shear? Data erasure? Engineers in the Dominion's lower decks ran feudal diagnostics. Their entire knowledge base had no terminology for this. Flashback. Project Black Mirror 5. Years earlier, Elias stood in a secret orbital station beside Dr. Rina Adebayo, the lead astrophysicist. Earth had discovered something unusual when experimenting with quantum fold reactors. When we fold space to fast travel, Rina explained, we create a mirror moment, a duplicate layer of potential reality between entry and exit points. Meaning? Elias asked. Meaning we found a place to put things? She answered. A place outside causality. Anything sent there does not return. The humans didn't celebrate. They prepared. Return to present Elias spoke with steady conviction. We do not desire war, but you crossed a line. Vexorian's eyes narrowed. You think you can threaten the Dominion with threaten? Elias repeated. You misunderstand. I am informing you of the future. He raised 2 fingers. 2 more Dominion ships vanished, gone without sound, without fire, without trace. Dominion officers collapsed to their knees. The bridge, once a cathedral of power, felt suddenly like a crypt. Vexorian rounded on his staff. Fire forward guns. Target the nearest human vessel. The tactical officer trembled. Weapons are offline. Restart them. We cannot, she choked. The systems aren't damaged. They're empty. Elias's tone softened. You came here expecting resistance. You found something else. He leaned closer. We replaced war with removal. Silence followed like a grave. At last, Vexorian asked, voice thin, What do you want? Elias didn't hesitate. Leave, never return. Spread the warning, and if we refuse? Elias didn't smile, but the room felt colder. We finish Phase 3. He nodded toward the void. Every human vessel vanished again, cloaking simultaneously, leaving only an empty starfield. Make your choice. High Commander. The hologram dissolved. Dominion Bridge. Final moment of the chapter. The crew stared at Vexorian, waiting for orders. For salvation, for anything. Vexorian lowered his gaze. Prepare retreat. But if the aliens pushed, they'd never fire anything again. For the first time in his decades of command, Vexorian Krail tasted the bitter metallic sting of fear. The Dominion fleet, once the apex predator of this region of the galaxy, now hung motionless, suspended in a prison made not of walls, but of manipulated physics. He wanted to retreat. Every instinct screamed the same thing. Run. Yet Dominion doctrine carved a single rule into every officer. No retreat without firing. And that rule, over pride, over logic, kept his feet rooted to the deck. Navigator Jeer, voice strained, recited updated diagnostics. Attempted power reroute failed. Engines remain locked. Warp core remains stable but unresponsive. Vexorian's claws dug into the armrest. We will not leave without recovering control. Jeer hesitated. The fleet doesn't have control of anything, sir. The bridge's silence tightened, thick as vacuum. Across the viewport, the stars warped as if the void itself pulsed. A ripple of distortion traveled around them, light bending where space refused to obey gravity's usual rules. The Black Mirror net was alive. Back on Earth, Pacific Deep, Defense Command screens streamed a real-time model of the lattice. Commander Elias Ward stood at the center console, one hand braced against the tactical display. Mirror field holding at full strength, Lieutenant Arya reported. We can maintain the net for another 6 hours. We won't need 6, Elias said quietly. He didn't enjoy what was coming, but he would finish it. A junior tech swallowed hard. Sir, Dominion flagship is broadcasting a fleet-wide command. They're trying to weaponize their warp cores, push them into critical overload. It could destabilize the lattice if enough go off at once. Elias shook his head. It won't. Then he repeated something his team had heard over and over. They still don't understand. Space won't let them. Dominion flagship. The propulsion officer trembled. Warp detonation sequence armed. Awaiting activation. Vexorian stared at the holographic prompt. The command phrase blinked. Confirm core self-detonation. He lifted his hand. Before his fingers reached the controls, the screens changed. Words stamped across every console. Command override. Access. Revoked Vexorian's voice dropped to a whisper. They removed the command from reality. Another console flickered with a new prompt. Humans request communication. The crew turned toward him, waiting. Vexorian growled, "Do not respond." But the channel opened without consent. A holographic projection formed in the center of the Dominion bridge. Light resolved into the calm features of Commander Elias Ward. No threat in his posture. No weapon in sight. He simply existed there like someone who belonged. "High Commander," Elias began, "you attempted something catastrophic. You would have destroyed your own fleet to prove a point." Vexorian hissed, "I would rather be dust than cornered by primitives." Elias studied him. "You still think strength is just destruction." He stepped closer to the projection, eyes level. "True strength is restraint." Vexorian's voice dropped to a dangerous rumble. "Release us now." "Return home," Elias replied. "Deliver the warning. Don't approach Sol again. And if I refuse?" Elias's expression didn't change. "Then I erase the rest of your fleet." Crew members gasped. One officer dropped to his knees. Another whispered a silent prayer, names of Dominion war gods long abandoned by their empire. Vexorian took a slow step forward. "You won't. Your species is sentimental." Elias nodded once to someone off-screen. Phase 3. Outside, the vanish point, the lattice brightened. The nearest Dominion cruiser flickered, then dissolved into a ripple of distortion. No flash, no noise. One moment it existed. The next it never had. Bridge officer screamed, "That's the second escort cruiser, gone!" No escape pods, nothing. The fleet log no longer lists their IDs. Vexorian lunged toward Elias's projection. "Murderer!" "No," Elias said. "You killed them by choosing arrogance over survival." The hologram blinked away, and the next second, Elias Ward stood physically on the flagship bridge. No transport beam, no warp shimmer. One moment he wasn't there. The next, he existed, solid and real. Dominion soldiers rushed forward instinctively. Elias didn't flinch. "Don't," he warned quietly. "Your weapons won't function." A soldier pulled the trigger. His rifle disassembled itself in his hands. Every component fell to the floor. Screws, casing, power cell, barrel, like a collapsing puzzle. Vexorian's heart thundered. "What are you?" Elias answered without pride, without animosity. "Prepared." He walked towards the viewport, speaking not to Vexorian, but to every soul on that bridge. "You assumed humanity was fragile. We spent 2 centuries studying every recorded alien war. We learned from every mistake your civilization ever made." He looked back at Vexorian. "We don't outgun you. We outthink you," Vexorian snarled. "You expect me to crawl home like a beaten animal?" "No," Elias said. "I expect you to tell the truth." He opened his hand. A small disk floated between them, a data drone, broadcasting a message to only one source, Dominion High Council. Vexorian's breath caught. "You contacted them?" "Yes." "What did you tell them?" "That Sol is off limits, and that the Dominion didn't conquer Earth, because your fleet never arrived." Realization hit. The scope. The brilliance. Elias wasn't defeating the Dominion. He was erasing the attempt. History wouldn't log a battle. It would log absence. The final decision. Elias tapped his wrist. A holographic interface lit up. Projected in the air. 2 options. A, return home. B, vanish. The Dominion commander stared. "You give me the choice?" "No," Elias corrected softly. "I give you the chance." Vexorian looked to his bridge crew. Officers who once carried themselves with the arrogance of untouchable power now watched him not as a god, but a man, a flawed one. For the first time, he understood. Humanity wasn't fighting for dominance. They were protecting something worth everything. Vexorian lowered his head. Return home. Elias nodded once. No triumph, only relief. Black Mirror disengage. The lattice dissolved. Engines rebooted. Stars returned to their proper places. On the tactical map, Dominion ships blinked back into motion, free but changed. Elias faced Vexorian, spread the warning. Never approach Sol again. Vexorian swallowed his pride. What happens if someone else ignores the warning? Elias stepped back toward the center of the bridge. The teleportation field shimmered around him. He answered with a sentence that echoed like a closing book. Humanity doesn't start wars, but we finish disappearances. And then he vanished, Dominion capital, 72 hours later. The High Council chamber trembled with panic. Where is the fleet? Where are the logs? There is no trace of their departure. The doors burst open. Vexorian entered, armor scorched, eyes hollow. He uttered 2 words. Do not approach. Epilogue. Earth-Elias walked the quiet shoreline of the Pacific base. No alarms, no emergency broadcasts, just waves and wind. Humanity remained unseen and undefeated. Elias Ward had expected silence after Phase 3. Instead, Earth's leaders demanded answers. A full session of the Terran Coalition Assembly convened in Geneva, 400 representatives, dozens of nations, and multiple off-world colonies. The assembly chamber rose like a spiral, glass walls revealing the night sky. Screens displayed the Dominion fleet's telemetry, entry, immobilization, disappearance. Elias stood at the center on a circular platform, his uniform understated, his presence controlled. The chairwoman, Dr. Noor Al-Masri, addressed him directly. Commander Ward, you executed an operation that nearly erased an alien empire's fleet from existence. You used a weapon the Council was not briefed about. Explain. He didn't flinch. We prevented war, without casualties on our side and minimal on theirs, a representative from Mars Colony interjected. Minimal? 3 warships vanished permanently. Elias met his gaze. They crossed a sovereign line. They were given warnings. They chose escalation. Whispers erupted, anger and fear mixing into a volatile current. The chairwoman raised a hand. What if the Dominion retaliates? They won't. Based on what? She pressed. Elias answered with the calm of someone who had seen the enemy break. The Dominion believes their fleet never existed. Their records contain no logs of the mission. Silence. Uneasy, disbelieving, Elias continued. They think history misremembered. They think they miscounted. They are afraid of something they can't categorize. Fear is a better deterrent than fleets. Dominion capital. Same day Vexorian stood before the High Council. The chamber resembled a cathedral carved from obsidian, high arches, violet flame torches casting skewed shadows. Dominion banners rippled like dark wings. The elders stared with a mixture of suspicion and terror. You claim you reached the Sol region, Elder Prime hissed, ghost pale eyes narrowing. Yet we have no proof you ever left orbit? Vexorian forced his breathing steady. Our records were removed. Not destroyed, removed, Elder Prime flicked a claw. Removed by who? Humans. Soft laughter spread, dismissive, derisive. Humans, another elder said. Barely space-capable bipeds? Vexorian's voice was steady, but his tail trembled. They built a prison from space itself. They erased vessels from existence. They manipulate physical laws. Murmurs spread like ripples. A young counselor leaned forward. What weapon? Vexorian stared past them, remembering the moment his ships blinked out. It wasn't a weapon, he replied. It was a decision. The chamber fell dead silent. Elder Prime signaled a guard. Escort High Commander Vexorian to containment. We will evaluate his mental fitness, guards approached. Armor clinked. Vexorian's voice rose, desperate. They don't need warships. They can remove fleets without firing. The Council turned away. You cannot fight something that refuses to fight on your terms. He was dragged out, his final words echoing, Soul is death. Earth, Geneva continued. The assembly grew restless. We need transparency, shouted a representative from the European sector. What gives one commander the power to decide who lives or dies? Elias kept his tone level. I didn't decide. The Dominion did. We simply enforced the boundary. Another representative, this one from Lunar Prime, leaned forward. Why keep Black Mirror secret from your own government? Because if the program had been public, Elias answered, half the galaxy would have tried to steal it. You don't trust us? I trust humanity, Elias said. I don't trust politics. A hush followed. The chairwoman approached the platform. What happens now? Elias spoke with quiet certainty. We build peace through invisible strength. Later that night, Pacific Base. The ocean roared against the cliffs. Moonlight illuminated the water like liquid mercury. Elias stood alone at the observation deck overlooking the dark waves. His posture was steady, but inside, exhaustion clawed at him. Rena Adebayo, the physicist behind Black Mirror, approached. She carried no datapad, no tablet, just concern. You didn't mention the psychological cost, she said softly. Elias leaned on the railing. Which part? That you can feel the deletion, she whispered. When a ship disappears, you feel it. He didn't answer. Rena stepped closer. You hid that from the assembly. I hid it to protect them, or to protect yourself. He exhaled slowly. Both. Rena looked toward the horizon. You never wanted this weapon to be used? No, he agreed. I wanted it to exist so it wouldn't need to be used. She hesitated, then asked the question every scientist had been too afraid to voice. Elias, if another empire challenges us again, could Black Mirror erase more than ships? He met her eyes. It can erase nations. Rena felt her blood chill. And if someone asked, could you erase an entire species? The ocean wind howled. Elias looked back at the horizon, jaw tightening. I would erase anything that threatens Earth's survival. Dominion Capital, containment wing Vexorian, sat alone in a transparent grav cell. A figure approached, armored not like a soldier but like a diplomat hiding knives. Black robes, silver mask, the Dominion shadow. Minister, you saw something the Council refuses to acknowledge, the masked figure said. Vexorian gave one weary nod. The Shadow Minister slid a clandestine data crystal through the force barrier. We believe you. We have suspected Earth for a long time. The crystal contained 3 words. Project Return. Vexorian stared. You're planning retaliation. No, the minister said. We're planning investigation. And if humans detect you, then we vanish like your fleet. The force barrier disengaged, not for release, but for recruitment. High Commander, the minister said, we want you to lead the mission. Vexorian felt the pull of pride and fear mixing. He accepted the data crystal. Earth will end us, he warned. Only, the minister said, if they catch us. Earth, Pacific Base. Later, Elias's personal terminal blinked. Unknown transmission. Untraceable route. Encrypted. He opened it. A message appeared, not written in any known language. Black Mirror auto-translated. We are coming to understand you, not to attack, not to negotiate, to learn what you are. A second line faded into existence. And what you hide. Elias whispered to the empty room. They didn't learn. He tapped his wristpad. Aria, prep all Black Mirror nodes. Silent mode. No light signatures. Yes, Commander. Rena entered just as the screen dimmed. Another incursion? Elias nodded. They're sending a different kind of fleet. What kind? She asked. His voice was steady, but his eyes were hard. A curious one. Geneva. Private debrief. The chairwoman reviewed the incoming data. This changes everything, she said. No, Elias replied. It confirms everything, she folded her hands. If we push too far, we may become what they fear. Elias met her gaze. We don't become tyrants by having power. We become tyrants by using it when we don't have to. So what's our next move? She asked. Elias looked toward the night sky. We let them see the surface of our strength, he said, and nothing beneath. Final scene, outer soul boundary in the void. Just beyond Neptune's orbit, Black Mirror nodes glowed faintly. Stars, Flickering like distant warnings, a small Dominion observation. Probe slipped into the region for exactly 3 seconds. Then space. Folded, quiet, and absolute. The probe vanished. No trace. No record. Only one final message transmitted back to Dominion Command. Turn back, final time.